Stability has always been presented as the ultimate financial goal: a steady salary, predictable bills, a life without chaos. For generations, this was considered success. Work hard, secure a stable position, reduce uncertainty, and safety would follow. And for a while, that model worked. But something has changed. Today, stability no longer guarantees safety. In many cases, it quietly increases vulnerability. The greatest financial risk in modern life is no longer instability, it is comfort disguised as security. Stability has long been presented as the ultimate financial goal. A steady paycheck, predictable expenses, and a structured routine have traditionally symbolized adulthood and responsibility. For generations, this formula worked well enough. When income arrived consistently and costs moved slowly, stability reduced chaos. It softened uncertainty and allowed long-term planning. It created psychological relief. So naturally, most people built their lives around it. Careers were chosen for reliability rather than passion. Risks were minimized. Volatility was avoided. The objective was simple: reduce unpredictability and maintain control. Over time, that effort produced something that looked solid from the outside. Income arrived on schedule. Bills were paid without panic. The monthly rhythm felt manageable. By traditional standards, this is what financial maturity looks like. Yet something about modern stability feels different. The tension is subtle, almost invisible. On paper, everything functions. But beneath the surface, the structure depends on continuous alignment. The paycheck must keep coming. The industry must remain relevant. Health must cooperate. The broader economy must not shift too aggressively. Nothing major can interrupt the pattern. This is not absolute safety. It is conditional stability. True security absorbs disruption. Conditional stability survives only when disruption stays away. And in the modern economy, disruption is no longer rare. Industries evolve faster than before. Technology replaces roles with little warning. Costs rise unevenly. Economic cycles tighten and compress. What once remained stable for decades now shifts within years. The more structured a financial life becomes, the more precisely calibrated it is. Precision increases efficiency, but it reduces tolerance. A tightly optimized system performs beautifully under normal pressure, yet struggles under abnormal stress. There is little slack, little room for deviation, and deviation is inevitable. Stability lowers visible stress while increasing hidden exposure. Instead of facing daily uncertainty, households inherit concentrated dependency. The system works, but only if specific conditions remain intact. When even one condition falters, tension rises quickly. This creates confusion. After doing everything responsibly, why does stability still feel fragile? Because the equation quietly changed. In previous eras, stability protected against volatility. Today, it often requires uninterrupted performance to survive. Income must remain steady. Energy must remain high. Opportunities must remain consistent. The structure depends on continuity rather than resilience. Resilience allows recovery. Continuity demands maintenance. If a financial life cannot pause without pressure, it is stable but not secure. If it cannot bend without strain, it is organized but not protected. Stability, when built without flexibility, narrows the range of outcomes that can be comfortably absorbed. This does not mean stability is wrong. It means stability alone is incomplete. Real security is not the absence of daily stress. It is the ability to endure when stress inevitably arrives. And that ability requires margin, adaptability, and room to move. Without those elements, stability becomes an illusion, one that feels solid until conditions change. Stability often begins with improvement. Income rises, living conditions upgrade. What once felt like luxury slowly becomes normal. A better apartment replaces a small one. A financed car replaces public transport. Insurance policies are added. Subscriptions accumulate. None of these decisions are reckless. Each one appears responsible, even necessary. Individually, they improve quality of life. Collectively, they create permanence. Over time, optional expenses become fixed obligations. Comfort becomes commitment. The baseline cost of simply maintaining life increases quietly. Not dramatically, not irresponsibly, just steadily. This is where stability transforms into pressure. Income may grow, but expenses rarely remain flexible. Housing payments do not shrink during slow months. Insurance premiums do not pause when motivation dips. Loan installments, school fees, utilities, and service subscriptions continue on schedule. The system assumes continuity. Modern financial structures are designed this way. Mortgages reward long-term contracts. Auto loans spread costs across years. Buy now, pay later plans divide payments into manageable pieces. Everything becomes affordable in isolation. But affordability in isolation is different from sustainability in total. As commitments accumulate, flexibility decreases. The financial system most households operate within depends on uninterrupted earning power. As long as income flows consistently, stability feels strong. But the moment income fluctuates even temporarily, the structure tightens. This is not a personal failure. It is structural tension. When fixed costs dominate monthly expenses, margin disappears. And margin is what absorbs shock. Without margin, small disruptions feel larger than they should. A delayed paycheck creates anxiety. A medical expense feels overwhelming. A short-term contract ending becomes urgent rather than manageable. The pressure is subtle but persistent. Instead of evaluating new opportunities based on potential growth, decisions begin revolving around one central question. Will this threaten the ability to maintain current obligations? Risk tolerance declines. Experimentation becomes dangerous. Career transitions feel impossible. Stability becomes maintenance. Income is no longer just income. It becomes fuel required to keep the structure standing. The higher the fixed commitments, the less room exists for change. Even positive change, like starting a business, taking time off, or switching industries, feels constrained by the cost of standing still. This is how responsible upgrades gradually reduce mobility. Each improvement added security in the short term, but each one also increased the minimum financial requirement for survival. Over time, the system becomes efficient but rigid, and rigid systems struggle during volatility. The modern economy does not guarantee smooth career trajectories. Industries shrink, skills expire, health fluctuates, global events ripple quickly. Yet fixed costs rarely adjust downward with equal speed. When financial life is dominated by commitments that assume uninterrupted stability, pressure replaces freedom. The structure demands consistency, even when life does not provide it. Stability in this form does not eliminate stress. It relocates it. The visible chaos may be gone, and the hidden pressure remains, and that pressure grows quietly as obligations solidify into permanence. Predictability feels like control. When income arrives on schedule and expenses can be forecast months ahead, the mind relaxes. Calendars fill with routines. Automatic payments remove friction. Financial life begins to feel organized and intentional. Patterns repeat, and repetition creates psychological safety. But predictability is not protection. It works only as long as the pattern continues. Modern financial stability is built on linear expectations. Income will keep arriving. Employers will remain stable. Markets will move within reasonable ranges. Health will remain functional. The cost of living will rise slowly and predictably. These assumptions form the invisible foundation beneath most financial plans. When those assumptions hold, the structure feels solid. When they shift, the illusion becomes visible. The real risk is not uncertainty itself. The real risk is designing a life that performs well under only one version of reality. Predictability encourages optimization. Schedules become tight. Budgets become precise. Income is allocated with efficiency. Time is filled with responsibility. Efficiency increases. Adaptability decreases. When financial systems are optimized for consistency, they lose tolerance for deviation. If income is fully committed, there's little room to experiment. If schedules are fully occupied, there's no space to pivot. If obligations are long-term, direction changes become expensive. Predictability narrows response options. This narrowing often goes unnoticed during smooth periods. Stability reinforces itself. The absence of disruption feels like confirmation that the system works. But calm conditions do not test strength. They simply avoid strain. Life, however, does not move in straight lines. Industries evolve rapidly. Technology shifts labor markets. Global events ripple across economies. Personal priorities change with age and experience. Energy fluctuates. Relationships transform. None of these changes are rare. They are normal cycles. A financial life optimized only for repetition struggles during transition. When disruption arrives, tension increases quickly, not necessarily because the event is catastrophic, but because the system was not designed to flex. A structure built entirely for forward motion resists sideways movement. Adjustment becomes friction. This is why financially stable households often feel disproportionate stress during change. They did everything responsibly. They followed predictable paths. Yet the structure they built depends heavily on favorable conditions. Predictability reduces short-term anxiety, but increases long-term fragility. True security is not proven by how well a system functions when conditions are stable. It is proven by how calmly it responds when conditions shift. Flexibility may appear inefficient during smooth months. Idle cash, unused time, lower commitments. These elements seem unnecessary when nothing is wrong. Yet they are what allow movement without collapse. Predictability can support financial life. It can simplify decisions and reduce daily stress. But when it is mistaken for permanent protection, vulnerability grows quietly beneath the surface. Past consistency does not guarantee future stability. When predictability is treated as certainty, stability becomes dependent rather than resilient. And dependency, no matter how organized it appears, is never true security. Comfort rarely feels dangerous. It feels deserved. After years of effort, discipline, and careful planning, smoother months feel like proof of progress. Emergencies become less frequent. Bills are manageable. Financial life runs without constant tension. The absence of crisis begins to feel like security, but comfort changes behavior. When systems operate smoothly for long enough, tolerance for friction decreases. Small inconveniences feel larger than they once did. A delayed payment creates stress. An unexpected repair feels disruptive. A minor income fluctuation triggers outsized concern. The reaction is not irrational. It reflects a structure that has little room for disturbance. Comfort encourages optimization. Budgets become tighter and more precise. Time becomes fully scheduled. Income is allocated efficiently. Waste is eliminated. Every dollar is given a role. Every hour has a purpose. The system runs cleanly, without visible slack. Efficiency appears intelligent. Yet efficiency without margin creates brittleness. A financial life operating near full capacity has no buffer. When everything is calibrated to current income and current energy levels, any reduction in either creates strain. There is no extra space to absorb impact. What once felt stable now feels delicate under pressure. Comfort lowers exposure to stress in the short term, but it also reduces resilience to stress in the long term. Without regular encounters with uncertainty, adaptability weakens. Risk tolerance declines. Exploration slows. New opportunities that involve temporary instability feel threatening rather than promising. The more comfortable the structure becomes, the more it must be protected. Protection shifts decision-making. Choices are filtered through preservation rather than growth. Career changes are delayed. Skill development slows. Financial experimentation becomes rare. The objective becomes maintaining the existing arrangement at all costs. Gradually, mobility decreases. This is not laziness. It is structural conditioning. A system built around uninterrupted performance begins to demand uninterrupted performance. Confidence becomes tied to smooth continuity. When continuity breaks, anxiety surfaces quickly. Comfort makes the present feel safe while quietly narrowing the future. Resilience, however, is built differently. It develops through controlled exposure to uncertainty. It requires small risks, flexible systems, and room for recalibration. It benefits from slack, from unused capacity that can be activated when needed. Slack often appears inefficient. Idle cash seems unproductive. Open time feels underutilized. Lower fixed commitments appear conservative. But these elements provide shock absorption. They allow response without panic. Peace built on predictability is conditional. Peace built on adaptability is durable. When comfort becomes the primary measure of safety, fragility grows unnoticed. The absence of visible stress hides structural vulnerability. Stability remains intact only as long as conditions cooperate. True financial strength is not the absence of disruption. It is the ability to endure disruption without collapse. Comfort can be enjoyed. It can signal progress. But when it replaces flexibility, it quietly transforms into risk. And risk disguised as ease is the hardest kind to detect. At some point, the realization becomes unavoidable. Stability was never meant to be permanent. It was a stage, not a destination. The steady paycheck, the organized budget, the predictable routine. These were tools for building order, not guarantees of lifelong security. Yet many financial systems are designed as if stability will last indefinitely. When life runs smoothly for long enough, it becomes easy to equate calm with control. The absence of visible problems feels like proof of strength. But strength is not measured during easy periods. It is revealed during stress. And stress is inevitable. Markets shift, companies restructure, technology replaces roles, health changes, personal priorities evolve. None of these events are extraordinary. They are normal cycles within modern life. The problem is not that change occurs. The problem is when financial structures are built without respecting its certainty. Redefining safety begins with redefining strength. Strength is not maximum efficiency. It is sustainable flexibility. It is the ability to absorb disruption without panic. It is having space to pause, reassess, and adjust without everything unraveling. That space is called margin. Margin is financial breathing room. It is liquidity that does not need immediate assignment. It is lower fixed commitments that reduce pressure during slow periods. It is diversified skills that create alternative income paths. It is optionality, the ability to choose rather than react. Margin often looks inefficient. Unused capacity appears unproductive. Cash sitting idle seems wasteful. Declining lifestyle upgrades feels conservative. Avoiding long-term commitments can appear cautious. But what seems inefficient during stable months becomes invaluable during unstable ones. A system operating at full capacity cannot tolerate interruption. A household that requires uninterrupted income to function smoothly lives under hidden pressure. When every dollar has a destination before it arrives, flexibility disappears. Redefining safety means shifting questions. Instead of asking, can this be afforded today? The question becomes, can this survive if conditions change? Instead of asking, does this improve comfort? The focus becomes, does this increase resilience? Instead of maximizing income to support expanding obligations, the goal becomes designing obligations that require less constant performance. The shift transforms stability from dependence into durability. It does not reject ambition. It does not avoid growth. It simply builds growth on foundations that allow bending. Stability becomes part of the structure, but not the only pillar holding it upright. When flexibility is integrated, stability strengthens rather than constrains. When margin exists, change becomes manageable instead of catastrophic. When optionality is preserved, opportunity feels accessible rather than threatening. Safety is not something achieved once and protected forever. It is maintained through adaptability. It requires respecting uncertainty rather than assuming permanence. In a world defined by acceleration and disruption, resilience becomes more valuable than smoothness. Stability alone can create hidden risk, but stability supported by flexibility becomes real security. And that version of safety does not disappear the moment conditions shift.